now into the Nevis Mango Festival, and that will be hosted from tomorrow, Friday, to Sunday, July 3rd. Friday will be the launch of the festival at the Cades Bay Orchard at 1 p.m. And for those who don't know where that is just across the street from the Seabridge area. Cades Bay Orchard is a very beautiful establishment, a leisure farm that we've created there. The activities there will include mango tasting, a mango eating competition, and a mixology competition. The Nevis Agricultural Department will be operating a number of grills, so there'll be a lot to eat, there'll be entertainment, and a well-stocked bar. On day 2 of the Mango Festival, registered patrons will be offered the opportunity to discover 10 unique off-the-beaten-track restaurants and snackets around the island. I should probably sign up to this, because as you all know, I like to go to the off-the-beaten-track little snackets and businesses and help to promote them. Well, the NTA is doing the same. And so once you sign up for the mom and pop restaurant tour, you'll be given a list and locations to these restaurants and snackets, and you can begin yourself guided to after midday, and you're expected to pay, of course, for the food or drinks that you have. On Saturday evening, Catch It Restaurant, and that is on Government Road at Revere House, they will feature a supper club dining experience. Special invited Chef Bridget Joseph of Trinidad will present a curated 4-course mango dinner. Prior to each course, Chef Bridget will talk about the course, after which it will be served to the patrons. The cost of this dinner experience is US $100, and reservations can be made directly with Catch It at Revere House. The big event for the Mango Festival will be held on Sunday, July 3rd from 1 p.m. at the now famous Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. It will feature a number of Nevis's best chefs as they prepare and present some of their best mango-themed dishes. The afternoon will also feature a master chef class by Chef Bridget, a chef cook-off competition, a wellness zone, an education zone, and a festival store. Tickets are available for purchase at the Nevis Tourism Authority. There are various tiers. You can buy a $50 ticket that will allow you to sample 5 dishes. A $75 ticket will allow you to sample 10 dishes. And a $100 ticket will allow you to sample 15 dishes. So if you go the extra hungry, I suggest that you get the $100 ticket. The NTA wishes to extend thanks to the sponsors of the Nevis Mango Festival. I'm told these include the Bank of Nevis International, MSR, SKN, West Indies Limited, Rams, the Good Food People, Carib, and Digicel. The Culturama Night Market takes place at the Artisan Village on Saturday, July 9th from 6 p.m. And that has become a very popular event. That event will feature a domino competition, Culturama, Kaiso, and Soca Monarch tent, local arts, crafts, etc. This concept of the night market was introduced, and I would want to give credit to the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. I think he was the first to introduce it for agriculture night markets, and now it's become quite popular. I noticed that even on St. Kitts, our sister island, the night market that he introduced over there as well has now become popular, and so we thank him for that innovation. Let me also announce that the St. Kitts and Nevis Restaurant Week 2022 is scheduled to run from July 14th to 24th, and during that 10-day period, more than 50 restaurants across St. Kitts and Nevis will feature creative dishes on their menus based on the local ingredient, and the local ingredient this year is sweet potato. The objective is to encourage the consumption of healthy local produce, as well as to promote business for local restaurants during the slow season. The last staging was in 2019, and of course, everything took a hiatus because of COVID. The Nevis Tasting Showcase for Restaurant Week will be held on Saturday, the 16th of July at the MGR Park, Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. A word now for our non-national community. The Premier's Ministry, through its Work Permits Office, is informing all non-nationals residing on Nevis who are in arrears of payment for work permits, annual residency, and visa extensions that an amnesty will be put in place from Friday, 1st July until Friday, 30th September 2022 for all outstanding amounts owing to the Nevis Island Administration. To encourage these individuals to regularize their status, the penalty for late application of visa extensions will be waived, and no fees will be charged for persons who have been out of status until 2021. Furthermore, the regular fee of $2,500 for work permits will be reduced to $1,000, And the regular fee for annual residents will be reduced to $750. All are asked to note that the regular fees of $600 for temporary residents without work and $500 for resident permit via marriage remain the same. So there's no concession on those. A flat fee of $1,500 will be charged for all outstanding time in its entirety up to 31st December 2019. There will be no charge for the years 2020 and 2021. Let me just explain that, because that sounds a little confusing. We realize that there have been some persons who have been here and for a variety of reasons are not in compliance. They have gone illegal because they have not come in and done what they're supposed to do. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated that problem. We've also realized that many of them, as we talk to them and as we go and we listen to people, are saying that they were not aware of previous waivers and previous amnesties that had been granted. And so they're living below the radar, so to speak, on the island. We want people living here to be comfortable. We think that as government, we have an obligation to all who live here. But we also want people who are living here to abide by the law. And that for us is also important. In the past, the government approach to non-nationals was to round them up and deport them. We have taken a different view. We have taken a more humane view. We have taken the position that our non-national community, particularly our Caribbean brothers and sisters, are us and we are them. And therefore, whatever we can do to ensure that they bring themselves within the law, we ought to do it. And that has been our position and a consistent position of the CCM-led government, starting as far as I have been in the political field and certainly continuing now. And that is, I think, the ethos that we've had, because we recognize that many Navajans live in distant lands. And we would hope that where they live, they are treated with respect, they're treated with courtesy, they're treated humanely. And so what we're saying to those individuals who have been here and have not had a work permit or have not regularized themselves for some years, that we're asking you to come in now and to pay a flat fee of $1,500. So let us say, for example, that you did not have a permit for the last 5 years. I'm just drawing a reference. If you were asked to pay up for that, you would have to pay $2,500 times 5. And that, by my math, is $12,500. So we're saying we won't do that. Pay a flat fee of $1,500. Get your stamps, get regularized. And then you will not have to pay for 2020 or for 2021. Going forward for 2022, instead of the $2,500, you'll pay $1,000. And for residency, instead of the usual $1,500, you'll pay $750. I don't think that you could ask for a better deal than that. And the reason I'm putting it this way is because I really don't want anybody to tell me that they didn't know, they didn't hear. So non-nationals, please come in and regularize your status. Take advantage of the opportunity to regularize. Get your work permit, get the stamps in your passport, regularize yourself so that you don't have to be going around and nobody can take advantage of you because you don't have your proper status. We are aware, and we've had reports of people being underpaid, for example, because they don't have status. And we know because our own people have suffered these types of inhumane treatment in other lands, where people work you and don't want to pay you because they say you don't have status, so you can't do anything about it. We don't want that here. And this is a government that is prepared to work with people. We feel that that is our obligation, particularly, as I said, our Caribbean brothers and sisters. So whether you're from Guyana, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Dominica, wherever you are from, you're living here now, you're contributing here, we want you to come in and regularize your status. So we're asking you to do that and to do that urgently. Now, please remember, the reason I said urgently is because this amnesty expires on the 30th of September. So that means come 30th of September, everything goes back to the original price. So we're giving you from July 1st, all of July, all of August, all of September, 3 months for you to come in and get yourselves sorted out. I don't believe I can make a more passionate plea to our non-national community. drain and the construction of walls at the intersection area. Notice of road closures and alternate routing will be given to the general public. Also good to announce to the Methodist community that we have started the reconstruction of the stone wall that we had to demolish there to do the road construction there. The welding and body repair shop at Government Garage, that will be substantially completed this week. And we are done essentially with the works at the Netwall complex, and I will say a bit more of that later. The department has also been engaging with some road construction at Malcolm Hill, that's in the Prospect area, and we are doing that to bring some relief to persons there in that area. The new fuel depot canopy and dispenser system, those have been successfully installed at the government repair shop. The system was tested by salt technicians on Friday, 24th of June. The system is ready to be used, but we await the official confirmation from salt. Work continues at Church Ground on the culvert reconstruction and accompanying road construction project. We apologize again to the residents of Church Ground for the inconvenience, but we are told that this work should be completed by mid-July. The work on the Cotton Ground retaining wall was delayed because we had some design issues and some back and forth, you know, the engineers, the technical team, they were debating that, but I'm told that the contractor has been remobilized and that work is ongoing, so the relief will come. That, of course, pose a danger to the Cotton Ground community for quite some time, and I would want to thank Latoya Jones, the advisor to the Premier on Community Matters. She was one who advocated very strongly that that road be done, and thank, of course, Spencer Brandon and the team at Public Works who responded positively to that call from the Cabinet. The Ministry of Communications has also contracted Mr. Elmos Grant to undertake repairs to the Stonewall barrier and the Bowen Bridge in Central, in Gingerland. Just about 80 feet of the dilapidated stone wall was rebuilt during the month of April, and that eliminates the hazard. Water. Water is life. And as you know, this government has invested, following on the investments made by the previous government, considerably in water. And that's one thing I would say there should be no debate on. Both governments have really focused heavily on water. I would say our record is better than the previous government, but I must give them credit because they too focused on water during their time. The Bath Village pipe installation commenced on May 10th, and that, as I said, coincides with the Bath reconstruction on the road. Malcolm Hill project I've mentioned, we're doing waterworks there as well because our approach is wherever we do roads, we put in upgraded water distribution systems. The water storage tank at Zetlands, that work commenced on June 6th. We have removed the old tank and we are now ready for the installation of a brand new water storage tank there. The Nevis Water Department also initiated a water management program which commenced on May 21st. Now that water management program was necessary because of the extensive drought that we've been having. That if areas affected initially were from Maddens to Jessops in the northern section of the island. But to spread the management across the island and to balance the system, we also introduced some water rationing in the southern areas as well, Zion to Cherry Gardens via Beach Road. Please note that the water rationing was relaxed on June 20th on the account of some recent rainfall that we had. And so the system is constantly trying to respond. That doesn't mean we are out of the woods. It's simply telling you that we are responsive. Those at Water Department are looking carefully. When we do get some rains and the system is topped up naturally, then, of course, we relax the water management. We are, however, continuing to appeal to our people to be prudent in their use of water and to conserve as much as possible. The Nevis Labor Department will have a career fair 2022, again at the Malcolm Gishard Park, and this will be from 11 July to 14 July. Skills development and opportunities for a brighter future, that is the theme that they will use. Culturama, 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 the Caribbean's greatest summer lime. The launch was held on Friday the 17th June at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and during that launch we had the promotional jingle and video for the festival was released. The patron, my good friend, William Zumbai the Guy Doe, was also named, I think a fitting patron in Mr. Doe. And a number of sponsorship checks were presented during the launch, and committee members were also introduced. As Culturama draws closer, we would have had a reveal party hosted at the David Freeman Center of Excellence on Saturday, the 18th of June. The Miss Culture Swimwear contestants are Miss Solid Waste Management Authority Chantel Leslie, Miss Stellar's Engineering Melissa Gums, Miss Caribbean Digital Display Shaquania Jeffers, and Miss Flo Keelia English. Mr. Cool participants, Ministry of Agriculture Dylan Smithen, Mr. Nevis Culturama Committee Shanwai Joseph, Mr. Nevis Tourism Authority Dwayne Smith, and Mr. Nevis Cultural Development Foundation Rocco Brown. Rocco, as I said earlier, is a great masquerade dancer, and now we know a great footballer as well. Well, Rocco is coming also for the Mr. Cool competition, so he clearly is a multi-talented youngster. The Miss Culture Swimwear and Mr. Cool contest will be hosted at the Culturama Complex on Tuesday, July 26th. 5 contestants will vie for Miss Culture crown. They are Cynthia Williams, sponsored by Nevlec; Shalise Smitten, sponsored by SL Hosford and Company Limited; Shamali Newton, sponsored by the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank; Shalisa Paris, sponsored by the Nevis House and Land Development Corporation; and Raquel Hendrickson, I hope I said that correctly, sponsored by Flo. The Miss Culture Queen pageant will be hosted on July 31st at the Cultural Complex. The contestants who will participate in the Talented Youth pageant will be introduced to the public tomorrow, Friday, July 1st, at Action Corner in the Cotton Ginnery Mall in Charlestown. Currently, members of the press and members of the public, we are aware that individuals are benefiting from a first aid and lifeguard training initiative organized by the Department of Sports in collaboration with the Four Seasons Resort and the Four Seasons Homeowners Association. The training commenced on Tuesday, June 28th, is being facilitated by Brandon and Bryce Bond of the United States, and participants are drawn from Swim to Win, Red Cross, Coast Guard, ferry operators, and persons who deal with aquatic sports. Now, some good news that I want to share, and to invite everyone to the ceremony to mark the reopening of the Mecca of netball here on Nevis, the brand new refurbished Cicely Grell Hull Doris Stevens Netball Complex. Those words are well put together, brand new refurbished. Well, the newly refurbished netball complex, the work that has been done up there is simply incredible. And I really would want people to go out. We know that netball has been on a bit of a hiatus. We've had some games being played in Brownhill. But the Mecca of netball is really that facility that was purpose-built for netball, the Cicely Grell Hull Doris Stevens Netball Complex. Well, we reopen it this afternoon. I'm told that the Netball League is going to start. There will be a march through town, and then it culminates there at 5:30. One and all are asked to come out and be a part of that. Lastly, the Department of Youth, in partnership with Girls Care JA, is currently hosting the first ever St. Kitts and Nevis Girls Climate Summit at the Malcolm Guichard Recreational Park. Girls Care is a feminist climate activist movement that aims to create a space and empower young women to advocate for gender justice in climate action. It has created a membership program for young females throughout the region to aid in enhancing their capacity to help in climate advocacy. 3 of our youth officers were selected to be a part of the 2022 cohort for the Girls Care Mentorship Program, namely Cordesia Walters, Keshana Stapleton, and Aaliyah Powell. As part of their final project, the youth officers have decided to host a summit entitled St. Kitts and Nevis Girls Climate Summit, Conversations on Climate Action and Climate Justice. It brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the final matter that I would want to raise. And it is a matter that is political, but I think more than being political, it goes to the heart of who we are as a people and as a country. And whilst it is a matter involving the island of St. Kitts, we are one federation, and anything that happens there affects us over here as well. And that has to do with the decision of the Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, or as I like to call him, the former Prime Minister, because he no longer commands a majority of elected representatives. He no longer commands the support. Whatever you want to use to describe him, I like to refer to him as the honorable member for number 7. He would have decided that he would start the construction of a prison on St. Kitts. 300 inmate facility that he took the decision that he would start. Now, I would want the members of the press to be aware that this prison facility was discussed in the cabinet and in fact was approved in the budget of 2021, read by Dr. Harris as Minister of Finance and Prime Minister in December of 2021. And the budget amount for the prison was EC $88 million. To put that in context, US dollars, 32 million US dollars. That was the cost of the prison that came to the cabinet at the federal level and made its way into the budget documents of 2021. At some point, that cost for that prison has ballooned from 88 million EC dollars to somewhere now in the vicinity of 2.5 billion EC dollars. How that has happened, we don't know. But what I will say today is that at 2.5 billion EC dollars, it will be the most expensive prison ever built in the world. It will be the largest and most expensive project ever done in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis. To put it in context for you, 2.5 billion EC dollars is 962 million US. The proposals that we had to build a bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis came out at 400 million US dollars. So this jail is costing more than 2 times the cost of the bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis. To put that in further context for you, we have heard a lot being said that the people of Nevis received 400 million EC dollars over 7 years from Citizenship by Investment. And many have been saying that that ought to be enough. And that because we have agitated and said that that is not fair, it is not equitable based on what we know the program is earning. And that if we were getting the 25% share based on a population pro rata basis, as we had agreed, that Nevis should have had over $1 billion coming to the island. Instead, we got 400 million. And the refrain that we get is that we ought to be grateful. What are we making noise about? And I, as the Premier of Nevis, for standing up, I have been accused of being greedy. All kinds of things have been said. But I would want our people to reflect that the cost of this prison now at $2.5 billion is more than 6 times the EC 400 million that the people of Nevis have received over 7 years. It means, therefore, that one prison in St. Kitts is more than 7 years' worth of receipts for the Nevis Island administration from the Citizenship by Investment program. I will go further. I have in front of me a publicly available document, the 2022 estimates, again from the budget, read in December 2021 by Dr. Timothy Harris. And those estimates are instructive because it puts the total revenue and grants anticipated for 2022 for the entire federal government at $913,572,857. $913,572,857. It means, therefore, members of the press and members of the public, that this jail is costing more than 2.5 times the entire budget of St. Kitts and Nevis for 2022. And I want you all to think about these things, reflect on them. Because now we're hearing, oh, what's the big issue? It's not costing us anything. And I don't understand this argument about it's not costing us. Because amounts were put into the budget, $88 million. We're now hearing that this project was approved in September last year. Well, it's an interesting thing because the budget was read in December of last year. So you must ask the question, well, if this was approved in September of last year, How is it in the budget of 2021? We have it listed at $88 million. And at what point did the tally move? Did the cost move to $2.5 billion? 27 times as much. And you know, the answer came to us yesterday. If you listened to the press conference that was held, I call it the prison press conference because that is really what it was about, to try and respond, to diffuse this real substantial issue, this elephant in the room of this jail, that they called on Mr. Les Can, who's the CEO of the Citizenship by Investment Unit, to deal with this whole issue. And I thought it instructive because Mr. Can said that we who are talking about the jail are simply multiplying the number of shares, 5,500, by 175,000 US. That is how we are coming up with the number. If you do that 5,500 shares times 175,000 US, you get 962 million US dollars. Times 2.7, that's how you get to the 2.5 billion EC dollars. He says that's wrong because the shares will be sold at market price, whatever the market will fetch. Members of the press, I want you all to consider what that means, because there have been constant accusations and allegations that our Citizenship by Investment program is being bastardized, it's being undersold. Dr. Harris once accused Dr. Douglas as Prime Minister of selling passport like black pudding. Now it looks like we're selling passport like sugar cake. The cost of it, the price of it, mark you, the legislation prescribes what the price should be. But here we had a senior official yesterday admitting that the government essentially accepts, agrees that they're not selling at the prescribed price that the law mandates. And now you start to understand why it is that 5,500 shares were given to these Chinese people to build a jail. Because if they're not selling it at the prescribed price, it means that they're selling it for whatever they could get. So maybe it's 10,000 US, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 20. And they therefore need more shares to try and make up in order to be able to build that prison. That is really what is going on here. That is the scandal that is happening. I'm not even going to get into who can make money off of this jail, because I noticed that all the presenters skirted and hemmed and hawed, but none of them are talking about who got the contracts, who's doing the site clearing, who's doing the security, who's going to process the applications. Because I'm gathering it's one firm closely associated with those who hold the levers of power in St. Kitts. So ask yourself those questions. Now I'm being told that the cabinet approved the jail. That is the refrain, that is the response. The cabinet approved a lot of things. The jail that I know cabinet approved went into the budget at $88 million. The jail that we are now hearing about is $2.5 billion. So we have to understand why that cost jumped from there, 88 to 2.5. But I would also note for the record that since cabinet business is now public business, and let us all make it public. We took an oath. I am no longer in the cabinet, but I would have thought the oath still bound me. But I hear people saying all who said what in cabinet. We must not allow the record to be distorted, because in cabinet we also approved the brand new Bastille High School. We approved universal health insurance so that all of you here in this room and all of us who are listening, people who cannot afford to buy insurance for health, that they would have access to health insurance and therefore access to adequate medical care. We all see people who have been going around asking for donations to help them with medical situations. In fact, this government that I lead, this year already, we've already paid out almost $500,000 to assist persons who need medical assistance and cannot afford it. Universal health insurance was intended to solve that problem. We made that decision. We made the decision that the people in St. Kitts, especially those in Keon, because if you all think water condition in Eve is bad, you go to St. Kitts, it's 10 times worse over there. People in places like Keon for years have suffered. And we made the decision that we must explore desalination, we must have drilling for water, so that the people of Keon and the surrounding areas could get some relief. We made the decision for marijuana industry. In fact, it is something we promised our people, that we would develop this industry. Somebody sent me a clip just this morning from one of my favorite friends and MPs, Lisa Hanna, in Jamaica, in the opposition making a passionate plea for the marijuana industry, saying that if Jamaica continues to dawdle and delay, by the time they're ready, Jamaican ganja will be no longer any relevance, because you'll have it all around the world. We all know that in any industry, the early movers get benefits. If you come in last, then by the time you come in, what is there? The early shakers and movers, the early innovators, those are the ones who benefit. And we have promised, made decisions in the cabinet, nothing has happened. So you hear how many decisions I told you they passed the high school. Water for Keon, universal health insurance, ganja industry, and I could go on. And I'm asking the fundamental question, why all of those were left at the bottom of the pile, but the jail was pulled up to the top? Why? And nobody seems capable of answering that particular question. Why? How is it that this jail became the priority? And I have said that any country anywhere in the world that prioritizes incarceration over education is a failed state, is a failed government, failed leadership. Any leader that prioritizes incarceration over health is a failed leader. And that has to be taken on board. They talk about what we're doing in Nevis. In Nevis, we're investing in sustainable development. You see where we're opening this afternoon? The new netball complex. Mecca for netball, so that people can go back to playing netball. We're lighting all of our fields in Nevis at the moment. We're investing in the hospital. When that is done, it will be a brand new state-of-the-art facility. Shortly, we will have a 128-slice CT scan machine here. The second in the entire OECS. Grenada just got one 2 months ago. I say all that to say that we are investing in our people in sustainable ways. A jail can't build nobody. Who's the jail intended for? In our closest neighbor, the United States, big brother to the north, they have this notion of an industrial jail complex. Members of the press know what I'm talking about. They build these prisons. Once they build them, what happens? You have to fill them. Because prisons need people in them, you know. For the dance to play, for the lights, they need inmates. Well, who are going to be the inmates? This is a Minister of National Security who has said to us that violent crime is down. The peace program is working. Crime is now the lowest that it has been. So in the response to a lowest crime rate that it has been, a peace program that is working, the response is to build a $2.5 billion jail. But who going into jail? You all remember, you know, there was a proposal, I think it was Cameron, Prime Minister of UK. And he had proposed, I believe, to build a jail in Jamaica. You all remember that, members of the press? So the UK will build a jail in Jamaica, and they're going to send prisoners to Jamaica. So Jamaica will be an offshore prison. Just like they came out with this proposal to take asylum seekers and send them to Rwanda. That's a recent furor in the UK. And I do not know if this jail is intended to house inmates from elsewhere. Maybe as part of this industrial jail complex that Timothy Harris has in his head, he will import prisoners from around the region or around the world. And if he doesn't do that, then who is going to fill that jail? I invite our people to look critically at these matters, because across the world, The people who are in jail are people who are young, people who are black, people who are brown, people who are poor. Those are the people mostly we find in our prisons. In my view, if we had $2.5 billion to spend, if we wanted to generate that amount of money from the sale of our passport, then there are far better projects that we could have done. You hear what I said to you? The bridge cost was 400 million US. Just about $1 billion EC. This jail is going to cost 2.5 times the cost of the bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis. Could you imagine what a bridge will do to generate economic activity, commerce? Could you imagine you land at RLB, you jump in your car and you drive home? Could you imagine Kitchens come over for Culturama, they get on the bridge, they go on home, we go on for music festival, we get on the bridge, we come home. Transformative. Tell me what a jail is going to do. What? At $2.5 billion, I am surmising that that jail must have golf course, spa, several fine dining establishments, tennis courts, certainly a gym or two. And it has to be that that jail will be fully air conditioned. I said the other day, jokingly, that if this jail project at that price were to continue, by next year music festival, I think most of us would prefer to check in there than to check into the Marriott or check into a hotel, because it will have to be a 5-diamond facility at that price. You know, perspective is good. And I got some costing of prisons in the United States. The estimated cost to build an institution varies, they said, in the US between 98 million US and 162 million US. Our jail, remember, was estimated in the budget to cost 88 million EC or 32 million US. So let's deal with US money now. Our jail was estimated in the 2021 budget to cost 32 million US dollars, forgive me. 32 million US dollars or 88 million EC. This document that I have in front of me is telling me that in America, the estimated cost to build a jail varies between 98 million US and 162 million US. And they have examples, you know. They're doing a US penitentiary, high security. One they're doing in Big Sandy, Inez, KY. I was wondering what it meant, but several people told me it meant Kentucky. So Big Sandy, Inez, Kentucky, to hold 1,088 inmates. And the cost, 162 million US. Our jail, to hold 300 inmates, is costing 962 million. 800 million US dollars more than the most expensive jail in America. I think our people need to open their eyes and start to ask these questions. The jail here in Big Sandy, Inez, Kentucky, KY, to house 1,088 inmates is costing the US government $162 million, and that is a high security US penitentiary. And we're telling sensible people in Little St. Kitts and Nevis that to build a 300 inmate facility is costing us 962 million US or 2.5 billion EC. There's a Calypsonian, I think, who said his name was Maths Too Hard. And I believe that this maths here is way too hard for most of us. There are other prisons here. Bennettsville, South Carolina, to hold 1,280 inmates, 102 million US. Forest City, Arizona, to hold 1,152 inmates, 98 million US. Right? Hurlong, California, to hold 1,280 inmates, 130 million US. installed. I think that we were delayed because they were being manufactured, but we now have them in place. I think that all of the issues that we're having about supply chain issues have been impacting us as well. But if you were to go there, and I invite you to go there, and members of the press, you will see that the windows are now all being installed at the hospital. And once that is done, we are then, of course, proceeding to just the interior work that needs to be completed. You say that Dr. Harris said that I tried to stop him from being sworn in 2015. I'm not aware of that. I had no such indications in 2015. If you realize, I was one of the chief proponents of Team Unity. I campaigned in St. Kitts, I campaigned in Nevis, and he was the person who was chosen to lead Team Unity. CCM was led at the time by the Honorable Vance Emery, not by me. So I don't know what he's talking about in relation to that. If he were to say 2020, I would say he's right, because I said to the team in 2020, let us change directions. I'm not going to resile from that. I don't stand at this podium to mislead anybody. As Premier of Nevis, I always come and I try to tell the press and the public the truth. In 2020, I said, let us change gears, because I had already seen all the signs exhibited by Timothy Harris. That position did not find favor, and so we proceeded to have him again as Prime Minister. It will be for history to judge whether or not I was right, because 2 years later we see what has happened. So if he says that in 2015, that is not true. In 2020, absolutely. The position of the CCM was that we did not wish to go down the road with Timothy Harris as Prime Minister. So I make that clear. Spencer Brand as a developer. You know, I think it is unfortunate, Mr. Cornelius, that Timothy Harris continues to private citizen, from buying land, which he did in 2008, from seeking to develop his land, get permission in 2014, and then later federal permission in 2015 November. So that is as far as I know in relation to that, but as I said, Mr. Brand will speak, and I think you must ask, well, how come for a hotel development, 70 rooms, you only get 220 shares? And we must ask the question about this mathematics. I know I'm not an accountant like Timothy Harris, but the maths is too hard, it's not working out. 220 shares for a 70-room hotel, and to house 300 inmates, 5,500 shares, something is wrong. Something is wrong. So I want to make that clear. The question you say from Mr. Huey? Yes. Mr. Huey says, why are we talking about this now? I don't believe there's ever a wrong time to talk about what is happening in the country. I don't believe that we are precluded from pointing out problems and difficulties and for asking that we change course. We have said that this prison project should stop until it can be properly evaluated, and we maintain that position. We know how Dr. Harris operates. Members of the press, you all have seen him. If Dr. Harris is going to lay this tile on this floor, he will have an opening ceremony with food. He will have a closing ceremony with food. And if you're not careful, he will have a ribbon cutting to say if the thing is there, and more food again. That is how he operates. So ask yourself, why it is this jail start? And nobody knows. Nobody knows. There has not been one public statement that this prison start. We only found out about it because Sean Richards went up there with an iPhone and did a live. I'm sure members of the press didn't even know. Why? That is out of character. No food, no ribbon cutting, no groundbreaking. Because he knows the prison is not about bringing us into international standards and ensuring that we're treating people humanely. The prison is to make some money for whoever is going to make that money. And I assure you, Mr. Cornelius, it is not you. It is not the people of this country. You realize for a prison that is estimated to cost $88 million, if you give 5,500 shares, which work out at 962 million US or 2.5 billion, you realize how much money there is to go around? When you all hear how much money given away to Sinkers during this election, perhaps now you start to understand why the prison starts in the dead of night. These are the things that we must look at because they're staring us right in the face. So, are people paying attention? It will be up to the people. Will they say the messengers are the wrong messengers, so we're going to ignore the message? Because the message is compelling. The message is obvious. And I believe that right-thinking members of our society are looking on and are saying, what could we have done with $2.5 billion? Mr. Cornelius, if I ask you that question, I'm sure you could rattle off 10, 15 projects. I'm sure you could use a full scholarship to go to university, Mr. Cornelius. I had one, and I know it is useful and beneficial. PS, you had one? PS had to pay. But I'm sure Mr. Hanley is here every week. He comes and he asks me, what are you doing for small businesses? Could you imagine the stimulus we could give to small businesses with $2.5 billion? The roads that we could build, the facilities, the bridge to St. Kitts, and still put money aside for a rainy day. But all of that is going into a jail. A jail, that is our priority. So if people don't want to listen to that message because they say Mark Brantley is the wrong messenger, then that is a matter for our people. But I am hoping that the message is resonating. And the fact that there was a full press conference yesterday to talk about the jail tells me that the message is resonating because we cannot defend the indefensible. And it is as simple as that. Any other questions for me?
Good morning. Today I'm here representing BHC Media, and you can follow us on Facebook. Question number 1. Mr. Brantley,
Yes.
you are the minister responsible for NEVLEC. So can you let us know the formula used to calculate the fuel surcharge on NEVLEC bills? Question number 2. What measures are you putting in place to reduce the growing cost of living in Nevis? Question number 3. To follow up with my colleague Devon Cornelius' question about the Minister Brand's $44 million US project, my question is, why was this project a secret until it was revealed yesterday at the Prime Minister's press conference? And can you let us know if this project has started already and where exactly is Mr. Brand's US $44 million private project located? Question number 4. Minister Brantley, I have been here for several years asking questions. However, I have never seen a minister other than yourself answer any questions. I took note that there are no members of your cabinet here today. So my question to you is, don't you trust your cabinet colleagues to answer any questions from members of the media? And is the CCM government a one-man government? Question the last question. You said in 2020, after the federal elections, the CCM did not support Timothy Harris to be the next Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. My question to you is, don't you think by not supporting Timothy Harris to be the next Prime Minister again in 2020, you and the CCM breached the Charlestown Accord, which said that Timothy Harris would serve 2 terms as Prime Minister? Thank you.
Okay, first of all, Mr. Hanley, the Charleston Accord said no such thing. I can send you a copy if you don't have it. It's been widely in the public domain. It doesn't speak to about Timothy Harris serving 2 terms. The agreement was that no one individual would serve more than 2 terms. That is fundamentally different to saying that Timothy Harris will serve 2 terms. I think he might have had an expectation, not only to serve 2, but as it had turned out, to serve 3, 4, and 5, because that ultimately was his goal. And I saw that. I saw what was happening. I made my own assessment, and my team made their own assessment, and we did not think that he was the individual that was fit to take us forward. You talk about the Charleston Accord, but bear in mind that we had been agitating. I became Premier in 2017, and I started my letter writing campaign in April, I think it was, of 2018, about Nevis's fair share of the citizenship by investment. And clearly on that, he was not making any progress either. We felt we needed somebody different, somebody who was prepared to act as Prime Minister for the entire country. So there was no breach of any Charleston Accord in relation to him, whether he stayed on or not as Prime Minister. As it turned out, as I said, our view was not the prevailing view, and he was sworn in again as Prime Minister. History will judge whether or not that was the correct decision. You say that there are no other members of cabinet here. The truth is that when we started this press conference, other members of cabinet, and including prominent secretaries, used to be here. After COVID intervened, we took the decision that it did not make sense because we had the difficulties of COVID for all these people to be here. And we have not asked them to come back since because we figured this is an engagement with the Premier of Nevis. This is billed as a Premier's press conference. And that is why I come and I report on various ministries, because the information is sent to me by the various ministries for purposes of this once-a-month press conference. It has nothing to do with whether ministers can't respond. I think every single one of my ministers is competent and capable. But this is the Premier's press conference. You have come to the Premier's press conference to ask the Premier questions. And that is what it's about. And I am not one who is going to duck and shuck, and when a difficult question comes, I say, let somebody else from the audience come up and answer. That's not what you came here for. I know in other press conferences you see people calling on, whoever is in the audience, especially when they have difficulty. Oh, Mr. Brantley, you come. So you come. That is not why I'm here. I'm here to be accountable and open as the head of government. And I am representing to the public, through the press, what the issues are, and speaking on behalf of the various ministries as the head of government. And so there's no effort to do anything but that. And clearly, my team has sufficient confidence in me to represent the government as the head of government at a press conference that I've been doing since I got into government in December of 2017. I think the first one would have been in 2018, but we've been trying to do it every month since then. NEVLEC and the formula, what I can tell you is that it's quite a complicated mathematical formula that they use. I can't begin to explain it to you, but NEVLEC will have a press conference, and the hope would be that you could go, and they will explain it to you, the technical team. I expect that they will be doing that shortly. They did contact me last night about being on the radio, but they could not be accommodated, so they will do something directly. And so that will be explained to you, Mr. Hanley, and when it is, I hope that you will understand it. I certainly can't say that I understand all the details because it factors in things like the price of fuel, the escalating price of fuel, or de-escalating price of fuel, as the case may be, because it is intended to go up and down. It's an accordion effect. Cost of living. Well, let me, before I move on from the NEVLEC issue, NEVLEC, I'm told, is supposed to be having a press conference where they will deal with some of these issues, because people have been naturally crying out that the fuel surcharge in some months is higher than their consumption, and people understandably want to know why. They will seek to explain that and explain the formula, as you say. What I will say to our people, however, is that we all live in this world and we understand that we have increasing oil prices globally. The invasion of Ukraine has exacerbated that difficulty. And so we expect that these unstable prices might exist for some time. Our people now need to start to respond. And one of the ways you respond is to change behavior. I know it's hard, but if you're accustomed to run your AC all day, all night, if you're accustomed to drive around the island on a Sunday just because you feel like taking a drive, maybe you want to cut back on some of those. Just like when we have water shortage, you ask people to cut back on watering their lawn, cut back on this. It is not good for me to stand here and tell people that, but I think sometimes we need to adjust and adjust certain things. If, for example, you have a loss of a job, or you have a reduced income for some reason, maybe you decide, well, okay, I'm going to party less, I'm going to drink less, I'm going to cut back in some areas. And I think that our people need to look at our own behavior and see where we might be able to conserve. Sometimes, for example, you have 3 people living in a household now in Nevis, and all 3 have cars. It could be that if you're going to work and you and your wife work in town, that you drive together instead of driving separately. If your daughter is going to work in town as well, that you drive, the 3 of you drive together instead of driving separately. I'm just saying that there are things that we can do, because this is beyond the capacity of any government in the region. Even the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which has oil, I don't think can control the cost of living that we're experiencing now. You asked what are we doing about the cost of living? I made an address the other day when I said that we would be removing all the import charges, etc., on food and food items. That had come from the technocrats at the Ministry of Finance. We then had a meeting, Mr. Hanley, with the main supermarket operators on Nevis, Best Buy, Value Mart, and Rams. And I was troubled by what they told me, because they basically said to me, thank you for what you're trying to do, but it's not going to make a difference. Because they're telling me that every week that they order, the prices from their suppliers are going up. There are serious shortages, serious manufacturing, production issues that is leading to escalating prices around the world. And because of that difficulty, Mr. Hanley, we are caught in the balance. Again, I'm asking our people to change behavior. We have, since COVID, been advocating more agriculture on the island, to plant something in your backyard. And our farmers, we're encouraging them to produce more using technology, including shade house technology. But more than that, I'm encouraging our people to buy local. Because by buying local, we can insulate ourselves somewhat from those exogenous shocks. So instead of buying sweet peppers in the supermarket that come in here from Miami, we don't even know what quality they are. We don't know how long they were picked, what they might have been sprayed on them to keep them looking fresh. We have no idea. And instead of doing that and buying that, and you're buying at $3 this week and $5 next week and $10 the week after, why not buy local? When you buy local, we know exactly where it comes from. And we know that we're supporting the local economy. So it's one of the areas that I'm encouraging our people, meat as the abattoir, local vegetables. I understand we can't buy everything local, because if you like your grapes and you like your apples and that kind of thing, then I appreciate that. But I'm saying that where you can substitute local produce for the imported produce, then I'm encouraging people to do that. The truth is, Mr. Hanley, and I always try to be direct and forthright, we are caught in a situation which is outside the control of a small government like ours and outside the control of most governments in the region. When I hear President Biden, the president of the most powerful and richest nation in the world, giving a speech about cost of living in America, inflation in America, and if they can't bring it under control with their might and their production capacity, then I just use that as an example to set out how difficult it is to do for a small island like ours, which is an open economy and where we import most of what we use. And it's not only food, you know, Mr. Hanley. Building materials, shipping. Shipping, I will tell you, we've just bought some equipment for solid waste. We bought some new trucks, we bought some heavy equipment for solid waste. Very significant investment. And to ship those equipment, we were told initially it was in the region of 28,000 US dollars. That is what we signed on to. By the time the equipment was ready for shipping, they sent us and said to us that the amount had increased to nearly 70,000 US dollars to ship them. More than double the cost. And so we had to grapple. Do we tell them to hold them and hope that the price goes down? Or do we tell them, go ahead and ship them, and we try and find the extra money to pay? And we decided, go ahead and ship, because we did not know if we hold, if the price would keep going up. But that is the situation. Ukraine, as you know, was very important to shipping. Russia was very important to shipping. The shipping lanes and the containers and the freighters, whatever they call them, that do the shipping around the world. And so that difficulty has exacerbated that problem as well. So in every aspect, fuel prices are going up, shipping costs are going up, food production is scarce, and therefore food prices are going up. So you have a perfect storm in relation to cost of living. And again, in my view, we will need to adjust, do the best we can at the individual and household level to see how we can control what we spend and what we do. Mr. Brand, you say that the project was a secret. I don't know that the project was a secret. The project has not yet started. And normally, as we know, you would have the groundbreaking and all that when the project starts. So I don't know if he had to go out and advertise the fact that he intends to do a project. His project has not yet started. His project, as I understand, is somewhere towards the south of the island, Cox Heath area. I don't know if you know where that area is, Mr. Hanley, but that is where I'm told that the project is. So I don't know that the project was a secret, as I say. I just think that the project having not started, there was nothing to report on it. I would have loved to have come and tell you that a hotel project has started in the Cox Heath area. But what we had was merely the approvals for the project. I think, as I said, Mr. Brand will speak, and when he does, a lot of other things will become clear as to why his project has not yet started. But I just wanted to clarify that Mr. Brand did not get any approval for his project whilst he was a minister in my cabinet. Mr. Brand did his project as a private citizen, and his project has not yet commenced. I think that you asked me, oh, I dealt with that the last question first, so I've answered that, the question about the Charleston Accord. Are there any other questions for me?
Yes, one last question from Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. He wants to know about the water supply here in Nevis. Are there issues with the consistent water supply due to the low rainfall, as is the case on St. Kitts?
I dealt with that earlier when I made my original statement. Please forgive me, I am pulling it up now. This was a report that we got from water, the water department. So we initiated a water management system, a water management program, on May 21st. And that had affected the areas from Maddens to Jessup in the northern section of the island. But we then started to even it out. So we extended the water rationing to the southern side of the island, Zion to Cherry Gardens via Beach Road. But we relaxed it, Mr. Cornelius, on June 20th on account of the rainfall that we had received. So the short answer is yes, we were having some difficulties based on the low rainfall and the severe drought that we have been experiencing, but we are very flexible. So the minute we get rains and the system is reinforced, if you will, we tend to relax the water restrictions while encouraging our people still to be practical. So no watering of the lawns and washing of the cars, and try to avoid that. Just as I'm asking people to conserve electricity, I'm asking them to conserve water as well. So the short answer is yes, we've had some difficulties, but we are managing those difficulties. Are there any other questions for me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Hanlon, Mr. Cornelius, and Ms. Budgeon, thank you. The members of the press who are here, those who sent in their questions, and those who listened. I certainly look forward to this engagement each month, and I thank each and every one of you for being a part of this monthly press conference. Thank you, and have a nice day. And please remember, the Mango Festival this weekend. I hope you go out and enjoy the festivities. And again, I invite all of our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts to come over and be a part of our Mango Festival this weekend. Thank you.
Yeah. They had it, folks. The premier's monthly press conference here on FM 98.9. Don't forget at 12 o'clock we got the headline news. And now head back to our regular programming.
Found the sound 98.9 FM. Enjoy an elevated experience with your full home internet and mobile combined.
Giving you the best.